Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Finance Series. We're your hosts, Josiah and Kelly Nagel. We'll be releasing a new episode every Tuesday and Thursday throughout January 2021.
Welcome back to the Finance Series. We're going to go over how financing a car may not actually be the best idea and how to find the most reliable car.
Let's talk about cars. Let's talk about cars. This is one that
You did a lot of research on this.
probably your average American finances. How many cars do you think in their lifetime? Quite a few.
I feel like people buy a new car every 5 years. Less than that, maybe?
So I think the first misconception to talk about with vehicles is in order to get a reliable vehicle, you need a new vehicle or a vehicle that's, 1 or 2 years old.
Okay, so new being like the car has to be made within the past couple years, and that's reliable.
Otherwise, it's not going to be reliable. It's going to break down on you, leave you stranded.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have buckets of maintenance bills, and all of these things are possible. But here's my thoughts, and I did a little research on it to make sure that my thoughts were backed up by some data. Due to a lot of technological and manufacturing and design advances, modern cars have an average lifespan of 12 years.
Wow.
And statistically, when the proper maintenance and upkeep is done, it's not unreasonable to expect them to last 200,000 miles. So your average driver puts 10 to 15,000 miles a year on their car.
Okay.
So 200,000 miles
That's a long time.
on the low end, that could last you 20 years.
Wow.
No problem. And we've had several cars in our own personal ownership that have gotten close to 200 or even past 200.
And
They were still going.
Yeah.
Yeah, the maintenance gets a little bit more intensive. You might have a little bit bigger maintenance bills, or maybe things start breaking that aren't necessary that you can just kind of ignore some of the luxuries of the vehicle. But if vehicles on average have a lifespan of 12 years, you don't necessarily need a car from the past 2-3 years. And I would say you should strongly consider avoiding buying those cars. And here's why. Mostly from a financial aspect. New vehicles, brand new, when you purchase them, the minute you drive them off the lot, on average, they lose 10% value.
10%.
10%.
Oh my.
In addition to that, new vehicles depreciate their value rapidly. On average, 15 to 20% depreciation per year over the first couple years. So let's play those numbers out. If you purchase a $30,000 car, brand new from the dealership, the day you sign the papers, put the key in the ignition and drive it off the lot, it's already likely lost at least $3,000 in value.
Wow.
That's a significant amount of money to most people.
So if you turned right back around to try to go resell it to them, they would only give you 27.
Best case.
Yeah. They'd only
Probably
give you
even
27.
less. They'd probably fleece you.
But you'd still owe $3,000.
Right. Now, extrapolate that out. You start with a $30,000 purchase price of a car. If it loses 15 to 20% of value per year, that means around year 4, that vehicle now is worth roughly 50% of its beginning value. Only 15 grand.
Wow.
15 grand. So here's what I propose. Consider doing this. If you want a newer vehicle and don't want to drive something from several decades ago, nothing wrong with that. But if you want a newer vehicle, consider buying something that's 4 to 5 years old, because that will allow you to avoid the most drastic depreciation that car is going to have.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else has to pay for that. That's their problem. And it can still be a very reliable vehicle for many years. If you buy a vehicle that's 4 to 5 years old, it's still got 8 or so years of solid, strong reliability in it. Another interesting thing I found, this kind of a side point, is that those depreciation statistics, they do vary from vehicle type as well as to manufacturer type. Toyota statistically across the top maintain their value much better compared to other brands, and that's because of their reputation for durability. And I'm sure most everyone's heard of that or knows someone with a Toyota that's, at 220,000 miles and still kicking. We recently got rid of one that was, I think about 205,000 miles, and I'm sure it'll keep going. So hopefully you would agree and kind of see my point of view that it can be really advantageous from a financial standpoint to skip that brand new vehicle price, that huge dollar and buy something a few years older. You're getting the same car after all. Yeah, it'll have a little wear and tear on it, but it should still be very reliable and have many years left of life. I'm not trying to say that it's bad to buy new vehicles, though. I think there absolutely is an enticement and a great desire for many, as well as a different feel for getting a brand new vehicle. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think here's what you should consider if you want a new vehicle. One, make sure it fits in your budget. And I would say that doesn't mean, can I make that monthly payment? That means, can I pay cash right now for this vehicle? And if you can't, it's probably too much car for you and you probably can't afford it. Number two, you need to be aware that that car is immediately going to lose value and very rapidly over the following years. So if you finance it and need to sell it in a year, it's very likely you could owe more than the vehicle's worth. And that could put you in a tight spot. Which brings me to financing vehicles. I just made the bold statement that I think you should always pay cash for cars. But why is that? So in 2018, the average new car payment was over $530 a month.
Wow.
And the average interest on that was around 5 to 6%. The average used car payment around $380 per month, with an average of 9 to 10% interest. And this is usually a 5 to 6 year financing option there. Because of that interest, financing a vehicle is the most expensive way you could ever purchase a car. And using financing can make you very prone to purchasing more car than you really can afford with your income level. As Dave Ramsey likes to say, if you can't afford to buy the car right now with cash, you can't afford the car. How do you buy a car with cash?
Ooh,
to many people, that probably seems unattainable. And it did to us at some point.
It did.
Most cars are over $10,000. That's a lot of cash to find, or a lot of cash to save. It can take patience and perseverance. Here's a scenario that Dave Ramsey paints in an article that I'll link below so you can read the full article. Say you're going to the dealership. You got your eyes on a new 2020, I guess 2021 now, huh? Maybe 2022. Are the 2022 models out yet? 2022 Toyota 4Runner. Fabulous vehicle. We owned a 4Runner in the past. Really loved it. I'm sure the 2022 model is much better than the 2004 that we had.
Yes, probably.
Great vehicle. Hypothetically, say that car costs $35,000. If you want to finance it, put zero down payment. You get, say, a standard around 6% interest rate. You're looking at around $700 a month.
$700
for your monthly payment for about 5 years.
Wow.
Now, say instead of purchasing that car right now, you kept whatever you had or did whatever you've been doing right now, and you saved that $700 a month in your own bank account instead of giving it to someone else. Save that $700 every month for an entire year. That takes some self-control. Nobody's telling you gotta set that $700 aside. Nobody's telling you gotta save it. But if you do that for a full year, you'll have $8,400 at the end of that year. That can buy you a reliable vehicle. We've, in the past 3 to 4 years, bought 3 SUV type vehicles with cash for under that $8,000 amount. It's very doable. You're going to have a hard time doing that if you just go straight to the dealership and tell them you want a certain type of car.
We've done that too. Doesn't go well.
But if you do your research, you show some patience, and you watch the market, easy to find something in that group. So you buy that vehicle. And then for the next year, year 2, you continue saving that same amount. At the end of year 2, sell your $8,400 vehicle. It'll probably retain its value. It's only been 1 year. It's a used vehicle. All that major depreciation happened under someone else's watch. Their problem. And you now, with the cash that you saved in year 2, can buy something in the $16,000 to $17,000 vehicle. It's a lot of great vehicles in that range.
Yeah.
Especially if you're looking at smaller sedans and things.
Well, from
of
the
that
average,
type.
from the average you gave before, that's only 4 to 5 year old car. The average would have been about $15,000.
Absolutely. Now, take that vehicle, that solid, reliable $16,000, $17,000 vehicle, drive it for 2 more years. Shoot, you could drive that until it runs to the ground. But if you've really got your eyes set on that new Toyota 4Runner, drive it 2 more years and continue saving $700 a month. At the end of year 4, sell that vehicle, and with the extra $16,000, $17,000 that you've saved, you now have plenty of money to go to the dealership and buy that brand new Toyota 4Runner.
Probably for cheaper.
That'd be what, a 2026 at this point?
Yeah.
And because you're paying cash, you hold the chips. It's much easier to negotiate, and you can probably get a decent deal. If these numbers still seem absurd to you, bring it down to your level. You can still get really reliable vehicles in the $2,000 to $3,000 range that have lots of life. Shoot, I remember in college, I had some friends driving around vehicles. I don't know how they were still driving. They didn't look like they should, but they kept going. Vehicles will surprise you. So what's the point? What's the point? Instead of buying the 4Runner now, you did this long, complicated savings process and waited 4 years. Here's the point. If you had gone and bought it right now and financed it 4 years from now, you would still be paying $700 a month for an additional year, a full year.
Wow.
You're paying the payment plus the obscene amounts of interest. If you do what Dave Ramsey suggests and you save that money 4 years from now, you got that brand spanking new 4Runner. You own it outright. You can hold that title in your hand and you don't have any more payments. It ultimately, I think, comes down to discipline and personal responsibility. In that example, you're going to have to set aside your wants and your desires. You're going to have to decide what kind of vehicle, what kind of features do I really need versus what do I really want. And it can be really hard to pull away from that, to pull away from your desires. But that's what you have to do if you want to try to pay with cash and start out this process. You got to focus on your needs until you can feasibly afford purchasing your wants. So that's enough about cars. That's our opinion. If you finance a car, you're not a bad person. I'm not going to look down on you. But we've been using the cash purchase method, and it's been life-changing for us, and we recommend you give it a try. I'll link down below some resources from Dave Ramsey about learning a little bit more about how to feasibly do that. So let me know why we're wrong.
Send us a message on Instagram as well if you find it different, or comment on one of our photos. And
The Bacon Bagel.
The Bacon Bagel and
AK.
Jelly Bagel _AK.
_AK.
If you haven't seen our last episode 3, covering debt and why we don't do it, it's just a debt overview, go ahead, check that out. But I'll just do a quick summary. If you want to get out of debt, go to Financial Peace University. It's Dave Ramsey's program. He teaches you how to get out of debt quickly using the debt snowball. It's an amazing thing. That's what we did to get out of debt. It has transformed our lives, and we've been able to do so much more by doing their system. If you're looking forward to the next episode,
I am.
What is episode?
5.
Episode 5. It's going to be on spending. Financial series going through the end of January.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.